Hey, welcome back. We're going to do another week. We're going to keep doing this every week. We had a good time last time. I think I can say that for you. Did you have fun?
It was all right.
It was all right? All right. It was enough that you're back.
Yeah.
So we're back in my home, and last time a lot of people thought that we weren't on the same screen, or the same room. Jeez.
We can shake hands now.
Hey, we are in the same room. He's just a little bit softer, a little bit quieter than I am, but I don't even think that's a problem. I think I'm just loud as hell.
Yeah.
And but yeah, we are in the same room, and I'm Chris again. You are? Yeah, they're just never gonna work. I'm never gonna let you say your name. Actually,
we'll have to reveal it one day.
I'll tell you what. We get 1,000 subscribers, I'll reveal it.
That's fair.
So get your friends subscribing, and maybe eventually you'll know his name. Otherwise, you're just gonna think it's forever. I don't want to spend a long time on this intro this time, even though our intro video is the one doing the best from last time. Instead, I think it's just probably time to go, right?
Let's do it.
Tiny little bit of familiarity each time.
Yeah.
That's the point. I really don't care if people like it or not. All right, so I had shared some stories with oh, that's my camera. I'm talking to the middle one. So, see this third camera, guys. Everyone wants to know you're in the same room. Okay, we're in the same room, and now we're gonna look at the wrong camera all day.
Barely got used to it last time.
Yeah, no, we gotta work on this. So, I shared some stories with. Did I say your name a minute ago? I have to be careful. I think I did.
You did or not.
I'm gonna have to bleep it. I shared some stories with. Did I say your name a minute ago? I have to be careful. I think I did.
You did or not.
I'm gonna have to bleep it, but I shared some stories with him earlier, and we're gonna start talking about some of them because look, some of them are serious, some of them are not so serious. That's kind of our thing. We're gonna start off with the Bible being banned in a couple school districts in Utah.
Yep,
so,
I briefly skimmed that one.
If everyone's familiar, the MAGA crowd's going crazy, banning books all over the place. If you mention a gay person, if you mention slavery, if you mention, I don't know, anything that makes a white person feel bad, they want to ban the book. And so the Bible's got tons of slavery. Oh yeah, anything sexual too, they want to ban the book. The Bible has tons of sex, right?
Yep.
It's got tons of sex, and the Bible's got tons of gay sex. There's lots of gay sex. It's also got incest. It even has one of the big heroes in the Bible, partaking in incest with both of his daughters and having children with both of his daughters. If you don't know that story, it's the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, where Lot, he's the only good man in the town. So God's going to save his whole family because, that's the way they used to do it. Women and children weren't really considered unless they had a good dude running the ship. And so as they're leaving, his wife dared to turn around and look back at the bodies that she could smell burning and all of her friends yelling like she looked at them. So, of course, she had to be killed right there on the spot. So he and his two daughters end up in this cave. They got nowhere else to go. And the daughters, they're horny. They're developing. They're not around other people. They really want to have children. And, of course, the Bible makes it very clear that the woman's only real job is to have children. And so they each get their dad drunk on different nights and go into, inside the cave, and they make babies with him.
Tells you it's bad, though, right?
It doesn't really say it's bad. It says they have to sneak in, which I guess is supposed to be the part that's bad, right? They snuck in on them. But, of course, the Bible's always trying to make the women look bad and not the men. Meanwhile, look, being drunk, you and I both know, because you have a kid. I got a couple kids. We're both fully aware that there's no level of drunk where I could do the thing that he did.
Nope.
Twice, both resulting in pregnancies. So, as far as I'm concerned, I would be perfectly fine with my kids not having access to the Bible, at least in a school setting. I really don't care, especially if you're going to go after all the other books you're going after. But yeah, they're looking to get the Bible condemned over its sexual content. I think it's great. I've seen pornography and I've read the Bible, and they're different, says one of the local ministers. And what he means to think is that there's pictures and maybe video in pornography. But have you ever read a romance novel? Because those aren't allowed in children's schools either. And
are they not?
No, and they're significantly tamer than the Bible in many, many cases. And So it comes amid a growing debate about measures that prohibit certain works in schools. And look,
This one's just, at least my understanding, it sounds like they're just fighting it to prove a point. Not,
well, of course they are.
not actually
Of course they
offended
are.
by the Bible.
Of course they are. So some kid there with two moms or two dads cannot read a story about a gay couple, but they can read all of these really perverse stories in the Bible.
So I will say, I don't think
Until it got
it's
banned.
not just a gay couple. The other book that they're trying to get banned, that the opposing side is trying to get banned, is a comic book, but it's nothing but the characters' sexual exploits.
So look, I'm not defending every book they're trying to ban.
Oh, okay.
I'm defending.
They are.
Who's they?
This
No,
other
it's you and
organization-
I.
This
You-
other organization is saying
you and
that
I.
none of those books should be banned.
You and I. We're the ones arguing. No one else is here. I can't argue with them. Hey, computer, stop saying that. See, it didn't work.
But
You
I
didn't
thought
do
we were
anything.
fighting for the side.
You're a moron. And I'm glad that you're named. So yeah, like
By the way, you're
I
cute.
do agree with this comment that Andrew Stang says, and it's weird because it sounds a lot like Andrew Yang, who was the presidential candidate who got I think a percentage of the vote in the primary
Something
for
like
the
that.
Democrats. But he says the Bible's pretty raw, and there's some pretty raw stuff in there, but it's nothing compared to what kids see on their phones. I completely agree, and the same can be said for all these books that they're actually banning.
But that's not a justification. Do you agree? I don't think that's a justification. Just because you see it everywhere, might as well be okay. Throw it in.
So I think that there's a time period that you have to look at, right? There's eras. And I think that we're in an era where it's kind of silly to think that you're going to stop kids from knowing what sex is, at certain ages, right? It's obviously age-based.
I don't disagree, but I don't want to make it easier for them either.
Well, I don't want to make it easier for them to get a hustler, but I don't necessarily mind if they know that, like, a girl can have two moms. I don't necessarily mind if they know that men and women can come together and make babies, and that's
I don't disagree
Again,
with
it depends on the age. It depends on the age. I'm not saying that we should go and explain all the intimate details to a kindergartner.
Right.
But I am saying that, like, they're banning not just in Utah, but it's everywhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
One of the books they were banning, it was for the fact that it described sex and not in a graphic hustler way. It just described like they're having sex, they're gonna have a baby, and they wanted to ban it from high schools. Like, what are you doing? These high schoolers know where babies came from. They do.
The issue is a lot of these
In fact, that's all they care about.
Well, these states have state laws that enable just one parent to come
That's
up,
right.
and they bring their issue up.
So
and
does
then
ours.
It has to go through the entire process.
Texas has that too.
Yep. So the vast majority of these, I don't think anything's happening with them. It just gets brought up in the news because now it's in the process.
These 2,000-year-old books, or however old they are, they all have stuff in them that our culture would deem inappropriate, which is ironic because we allow things that should be deemed inappropriate. Again, this is Andrew Yang talking. It's not really Yang, it's Stang.
Oh, okay. I was like, wait.
Yang was the other
It was?
guy. Yeah. So a redacted version of the request, first published by the Salt Lake Tribune, said the Bible had been left off of a list of books to be banned under the new law, despite containing incest, onanism. Do you know what onanism is?
I do not.
Yeah, I don't either. We should have known that coming
meant
in.
to look that up.
Can you look that up real quick? Onanism?
Let me Google that.
Prostitution, bestiality, mutilation, fellatio, dildos, rape, and even infanticide. I mean, I totally agree. All of those things are prevalent in the Bible. What's onanism?
Masturbation.
Oh, masturbation. So they should have said masturbation.
I've never heard that term.
So, if you've got an issue with little Johnny reading a book that says that kids masturbate, like, he also shouldn't be able to read the Bible.
The second definition, so there's two definitions.
Okay.
One is masturbation. Two is coitus interruptus.
So it's interrupting somebody during sex?
I guess.
Those
Early
are very
eight-
different. They're very different definitions.
Early 18th century French or modern Latin.
So, the parent that's objecting to the Bible, right? They're objecting to the Sensitive Materials in Schools Act, which bans schools in Utah from providing students access to materials deemed inappropriate for minors. This is defined as either pornographic material, patently offensive in the description or depiction of nudity, sexual conduct, sexual excitement, sadomasochistic abuse, or excretion, or material harmful to minors. Again, I think really every one of those things exists in the Bible. So, at any rate, this parents, saying get this porn out of our schools, I tend to agree with them. You don't have any issue with them banning the Bible?
I would definitely have an issue with that. I think.
Would you?
I think the parents banning the Bible, it's the most printed book in human history.
Okay.
By far.
So printing it a lot means it's okay. Because there's a lot of copies of Hustler out there.
I think it's been, if
a
it's
whole
been
lot
printed
of
that much, it's been widely accepted by pretty much every culture in the world. So
it's definitely not accepted by Middle Eastern cultures.
A lot of people in Middle Eastern cultures.
I mean, not that many.
Like 12% or something.
Okay, but like, should we have the Quran and the Torah?
Those are in the schools.
No. Well,
they haven't banned those.
So once again, I understand they haven't yet, but like there is stuff in the Quran that you could ban it for. Quran.
I don't disagree, but that person's going to have to.
Well, it's that person.
They'll lose on that challenge, I think.
But it would be one of the Christians that would challenge that one, not this other person, right? At any rate, look, if you're going to go after books, you've got to expect that people are going to try to follow the same rules and go after the books you like.
Right.
I don't see why this is a surprise. And
I will say a lot of people are fighting against some of these book bans and don't even know what's in them. That one in Florida they were talking about the other day.
You mean like Christians in the Bible who they have no idea what's in the Bible, but I know what's in the Bible?
Along the same lines.
I can quote it and they can't?
Yep.
Yeah, because how many Christians do you think actually know the story of Sodom and Gomorrah all the way to the pregnant daughters? It's not many.
Probably.
That's probably about right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I would say like the book that they were talking about in Florida recently, everyone was saying, how dare you ban that and stuff like that. And I think it was in elementary schools that it was banned for. And they held the book up on CNN, on TV. And CNN had to blur it because it's obviously too offensive for television.
Mm-hmm.
So how are you going to argue against that one?
Well, you can't just bring up a random case that's not in the story that we read and expect me to argue it. I can't argue it.
I can do whatever I want.
Well, but I can't argue it, and you know that.
So I win.
But that doesn't mean you win. No. See, we were talking about this particular case.
Number one.
You got to quit doing that. You got to quit pretending like you have these wins because they're fake. We're gonna have to get a moderator in here.
Let's move on.
We're obviously gonna need a moderator.
I know you're jealous. Let's move on.
There's definitely 45 bags. This is such a great story.
Yeah, this one.
45 bags of human remains were found in western Mexico.
Did you see the picture? Because the picture, I immediately thought of Dexter.
Of course you thought of Dexter. I read the headline and I thought of Dexter.
True.
If you guys have seen Dexter, and if you haven't, watch it. It's amazing.
Great show.
But if you've seen Dexter, he throws bags of human remains into the ocean, and it's the very end of season 1. No, season 2. I think season 2, because the very end of season 1 is where he runs into his brother. At the end of season 2, like they're uncovering all these bags of dead people in the ocean, and they call him the Bay Harbor Butcher. And
That's right,
anyway, so the Bay Harbor Butcher is back at work in Mexico, and they've been missing a lot of. They've had these call center workers disappearing on them.
Yep, I saw that. So they had 7 call center workers that they've been looking for the past week, which they have not called off the search for, even after finding these 45 body bags, because it could be anybody.
Although they have seen something, they found some things that look like it that could be them.
Now, what I'm curious about, this sounds like a cartel, type.
It does sound like it.
I'd be genuinely curious to know what the cartel wanted 7 call center workers dead for.
Well, I don't think call center workers necessarily make a ton of money, and I think that maybe some of them had little side gigs, and perhaps they perhaps little Walter Whites were working out there.
I guess. I don't know.
Look, I don't have a lot to say about this
Selling
one.
it to the clients over the phone.
The only thing I really got is that I just couldn't see 45 bags of human remains and not talk about it.
Yeah, that was a good one.
There's nothing to argue about. It's really just, wow, 45 bags of human remains.
I'm waiting to figure out what they find in those bags. Is that going to turn out to be 45 bodies, or is that 7 bodies and 45 bags?
I think it's taking a long amount of time to tell us that, right?
Yeah.
Like, are they finding a hand and a foot, or are they finding everything?
Yeah, we didn't get much information.
How many heads are there? If there's only 7 heads, then I have a good idea that it might be the call center people. If you've got 35 heads, then I don't think it's them.
Yeah, but we don't know.
It could be them and 28 others, but it's unlikely.
They weren't small bags, particularly, so they look pretty full.
Yeah. If I can get a good picture of that, I'm gonna put it right here between us, and we'll take a look at that picture. But I have not seen a great picture of them.
I just did a face for you.
That's good. We'll see if we use it. I don't know. Oh, you mean because you're looking at the bags?
Yeah,
fantastic. Wow. That'll be great. That'll be great. See, he was shocked, folks, even though you hear me saying that he hasn't seen it yet. All right, moving on. Florida mom, which is not Florida man this time at least, is a Florida mom, allegedly left her kids in the car to shoplift. All right, so she's going in to steal and said, "Hey, kids, wait for me."
They have to say allegedly.
Yeah.
They have her on camera
Yeah,
for an hour.
Yeah, she was definitely shoplifting,
Yeah,
right?
They had her on camera for an hour going store to store.
And then the car caught fire.
Yep.
So she faces arson and child neglect. Oh, sorry.
I was gonna say, I thought these were little kids in there.
Yeah.
These were babies.
Yeah. Yeah, they were.
In my head, I was like, well, the car caught on fire an hour later.
Yeah, if you're like a 7-year-old, 8-year-old, like
maybe they got mom's lighter or something.
They could have, and they could probably get out.
Right.
You know, but like
these are babies, so they didn't start the fire.
So Central Florida woman is facing arson and child neglect charges after she allegedly left 2 children in her car while in shopping in a mall, shoplifting. She wasn't shopping, shoplifting in a mall. Right. And then that car caught fire. So she was arrested following the blaze in Oviedo. I don't know if that's how you say the name. Oviedo. It's a little town in Florida, I guess. Just north of Orlando. It left 1 child with first-degree burns, according to a copy of her arrest report. Now,
and first degree is basically a sunburn, right?
Yes. Yeah, that's basically a sunburn. So, but like, that's luck.
Yeah, that could have been way worse. 10 seconds later, you see the pictures.
So I can show a picture. Yeah, there's flames coming out of this car. It's not a pretty sight. So she was shoplifting inside a Dillard's department store with an unidentified man. And as she started exiting the mall, she saw the car engulfed in flames. She dropped her merchandise, which is crazy. If you're there to steal, you might as well keep it.
I thought it showed she cared a little.
It does show that she cares a little. That's true. Of course, these kids are 2 and 4, and she left them in the car for an hour while she went to go steal stuff. And it's not.
They were 2 and 4.
Yeah.
Oh,
but 4 is different. 4 might get out, but 2-year-olds probably can't.
I thought I had read that one was like a few months old.
I consider 2 and 4 to be babies.
Yeah, no,
they haven't even started school yet.
That's still young.
Like, your daughter's 4, right? Can we say that? Oh, do you mind if we say that you have a 2-year-old? Okay. Obviously, we're not ever going to give our family names and stuff, but like, he does have a 2-year-old daughter. I've got a almost 13 and 11-year-old children, so we have kind of different perspectives on it, but. So her face and ears also got those first-degree burns, which that definitely stinks for a 2-year-old, right? Oh, yeah. The vehicle is described as totaled, and she was arrested. It says she's being charged with arson because she did leave the kids alone in the car with some sort of lighter and matches. I don't know what it was to set the car on fire. So they did set it. Okay. Probably the 4-year-old. Yeah, you would guess.
I hadn't read that. The article I read earlier didn't have a cause or anything yet.
Obviously, the kids are her responsibility. You would expect. She's being held on a $48,000 bond. Anyway, look. Go ahead.
Is she being charged with stealing? I guess she dropped it, so it doesn't quite. Maybe she didn't quite.
I don't know how, but see, it says she sold from different stores, so she definitely left certain stores with merchandise.
Right. It
doesn't say she's being charged with shoplifting, but I'm gonna assume they would.
I'm sure they'll tack it on.
I mean, if you leave your kids in a car and they start a fire, and they don't throw everything they can at you, I think that's really a missed opportunity.
I mean, if they just saw her on camera stealing for an hour and then arrested her and found her kids in her car, she'd still probably get charged with neglect.
Right. Florida mom, which is not Florida man this time at least, is a Florida mom, allegedly left her kids in the car to shoplift. All right, so she's going in to steal and said, "Hey, kids, wait for me."
They have to say allegedly.
Yeah.
They have her on camera for an hour.
Yeah, she was definitely shoplifting, right?
They had her on camera for an hour going store to store.
And then the car caught fire.
Yep.
So she faces arson and child neglect. Oh, sorry.
I was going to say, I thought these were little kids in there.
Yeah.
These were babies.
Yeah. They were.
In my head, I was like, well, the car caught on fire an hour later.
Yeah, if you're like a 7-year-old, 8-year-old, like
maybe they got mom's lighter or something.
They could have, and they could probably get out.
Right.
But like
these are babies, so they didn't start the fire.
So Central Florida woman is facing arson and child neglect charges after she allegedly left 2 children in her car while in shopping in a mall, shoplifting. She wasn't shopping, shoplifting in a mall. Right. And then that car caught fire. So she was arrested following the blaze in Oviedo. I don't know if that's how you say the name. Oviedo. It's a little town in Florida, I guess. Just north of Orlando. It left 1 child with first-degree burns, according to a copy of her arrest report. Now,
and first degree is basically a sunburn, right?
Yes. Yeah, that's basically a sunburn. But like that's luck.
Yeah, that could have been way worse. 10 seconds later, you see the pictures.
So I can show a picture. Yeah, there's flames coming out of this car. It's not a pretty sight. So she was shoplifting inside a Dillard's department store with an unidentified man, and as she started exiting the mall, she saw the car engulfed in flames. She dropped her merchandise, which is crazy. If you're there to steal, you might as well keep it.
I thought it showed she cared a little.
It does show that she cares a little. That's true. Of course, these kids are 2 and 4, and she left them in the car for an hour while she went to go steal stuff. And it's not.
They were 2 and 4.
Yeah.
Oh,
but 4 is different. 4 might get out, but 2-year-olds probably can't.
I thought I had read that one was like a few months old.
I consider 2 and 4 to be babies.
Yeah, no,
they haven't even started school yet.
That's still young.
Like your daughter's 4, right? Can we say that? Oh, do you mind if we say that you have a 2-year-old? Okay. Obviously, we're not ever going to give our family names and stuff, but like he does have a 2-year-old daughter. I've got a almost 13 and an 11-year-old children, so we have kind of different perspectives on it, but. So her face and ears also got those first-degree burns, which that definitely stinks for a 2-year-old, right? Oh, yeah. The vehicle is described as totaled, and she was arrested. It says she's being charged with arson because she did leave the kids alone in the car with some sort of lighter and matches. I don't know what it was to set the car on fire. So they did set it. Okay. Probably the 4-year-old. Yeah, you would guess.
I hadn't read that. The article I read earlier didn't have a cause or anything yet.
Obviously, the kids are her responsibility. You would expect. She's being held on a $48,000 bond. Anyway, look. Go ahead.
Is she being charged with stealing? I guess she dropped it, so it doesn't quite. Maybe she didn't quite.
I don't know how, but see, it says she sold from different stores, so she definitely left certain stores with merchandise.
Right.
It doesn't say she's being charged with shoplifting, but I'm gonna assume they would.
I'm sure they'll tack it on.
I mean, if you leave your kids in a car and they start a fire, and they don't throw everything they can at you, I think that's really a missed opportunity.
I mean, if they just saw her on camera stealing for an hour and then arrested her and found her kids in her car, she'd still probably get charged with neglect.
Right. If you all this time have thought that Trump was just so brilliant and he's the mastermind behind his own political career, first of all, what's wrong with you? It was never true, and it was obviously never true. But second, everyone's told you it's been Roger Stone the whole time, and Roger Stone has come out and said exactly how he did it. Actually, he didn't come out and say it. He got caught talking about it, but now it's out there and we know.
That he secretly controls Trump by, I don't know, what would you call that?
Well, I would say by playing to his ego.
Maybe subliminal messaging?
Well, no, I don't even think it's subliminal. He plays to his ego. He basically, everything he thinks Trump should do, he'll make it sound to Trump like it was Trump's idea. He says it here, even if he never even thought of it. So he gave an example. He said, you have to say this. Remember that night we were in Buffalo and you gave that speech and God, it had to be 10,000 people, the biggest crowd they'd ever seen. And you said X, Y, and Z, and the place went crazy. Do you remember that? I don't know where you came up with that line, but it's one of the best things. Meanwhile, he knows that line was never uttered by Trump.
Right.
That was his own idea he came up with. But Trump's like, you know what? I did think of that. That was amazing. And I'm going to say that all the time now. And he says it doesn't effing matter that he never said it. It doesn't matter. It's time consuming, but it works. And I've done it for 30 years. So I don't know. Roger Stone has been a kingmaker in the Republican Party for a long time. You basically haven't gotten elected as a Republican for decades without going through Roger Stone in some sort.
Sure.
And he decided that he could go a lot more right-wing if he had someone like a Trump. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious that's what he was doing. And then you see the policies that came out, and that's exactly what's happened.
And he was good at it, just getting Trump at doing what he wanted.
So, right. Yeah. Because, if you could keep a little bit of control there, you're in better shape, right?
I'd say there's got to be one of those guys on the left right now with Biden. Biden's not coming up with everything he says he is.
What's he come up with?
Stuff he says he does.
He hasn't come up with anything, and he doesn't say he came up with anything. That's the thing. So he's being honest. I think he's being honest because he's got no ideas.
He fights saying that it was his administration, or he himself, getting things done.
Like what?
Off the top of my head.
Give me an idea of something he's done. He's done nothing. He fell. That's what he's done. And we're going to get to that story in a little bit.
Yeah. Someone else put that there too. Not him.
Biden. He fell the other day during a commencement at a graduation ceremony.
Air Force graduation.
Air Force graduation. That's right. So I don't know if it's supposed to be funny that the president falls. I find it funny no matter the party, because when Trump fell going down that ramp, or almost fell.
He did the baby
he
steps
came real
all
close.
the way
He took the little baby
Yeah,
steps. Yeah. I found that hilarious. I find this hilarious. I don't see why we shouldn't be able to laugh at the most powerful person in the world looking a little human, and
Especially when you know he's okay.
and showing his age.
Or at least they say he's okay.
And showing his age.
They told us he's okay.
Because Biden is ancient. He's ancient. Like, I'm surprised his bones just didn't fall apart when he fell. I'm surprised that wasn't what caused it.
Yeah.
I
will say the person I felt the worst for was that Air Force. I don't know if he was a general or what, that was standing right next to him.
Yeah.
And he did lunge to try to catch, but
he
close
failed.
enough.
Yeah, and he's kicking himself now, right? Like, yeah. I guess, and there's not a whole lot to say about this either, except for the fact that this fall, if you didn't already realize that Biden's got no business running again, this fall should really tell everyone. So,
well, and it's not the first fall either. He's had a couple now.
Look, if we get really big, over the next year, and we've got a presidential hopeful on the Democratic side watching this, and you haven't gotten in the race because of Biden, get in the race. You belong there.
Or if you want some interview time. We don't charge.
Look, we will do interviews all day long, and we will let you say whatever you want to say, as long as I agree with it. Otherwise, I didn't mean that.
Then I'll agree with it.
Oh yeah, okay, great. As long as one of us agrees with it.
Yeah.
But doesn't actually count. He can't talk to you. He doesn't even know your name, and he won't be allowed to know your name.
That's fine.
Nobody knows your name.
I don't want the government to know my name. I don't know. I don't
That's fair. I want to talk for a minute about this Reality Pro headset. Now, because we're recording right now, and it turns out it's Monday, this is the reveal day for what's being called Vision Pro, not Reality Pro. This whole time,
that's the new name of it.
Everyone thought it was going to be called Reality Pro, but it's actually called Vision Pro by Apple. I don't know everything it's going to do yet. I know that it's going to be VR, AR. I know that
That's the first I heard of the change, but I liked Reality Pro better.
I did too.
So.
I kind of like the name Reality Pro. But I do know that they had deals with Disney, so they're going to have some Disney interactive AR experiences that are there. Like, you can have the castle kind of come out of your desk and shoot fireworks, and there's going to have some superhero Marvel things tied into it. Those things are going to be, those will drive people.
I hope so.
I didn't see the price, but let me just look real quick, because I bet the thing's over now and we could know the price at least. Yeah. All right, so just like Apple always does, when they release this, or not release, when they announce this Vision Pro, they actually wait until the very end to talk about the price. Now, there are some cool things, like you're already going to be able to play like most of the games in the App Store on a huge screen in front of you, right? Which you can do some of that stuff with Meta's products.
I think you can do that a lot of times already just on your TV at home.
Well, you can, but in Meta products, if I wanted to play, say, Xbox Live, I can, and it's on like a movie theater screen in front of me, right?
Okay.
And I love my Meta Quest Pro, love it.
I didn't know we could do that.
Yeah,
cool.
You obviously have to have that subscription or whatever, but it's pretty cool. So I'm not going to say that this is going to stink or anything, but not only are they waiting until 2024 to drop it, it's early 2024, which I don't even know what that means. It could be as late as June.
Yeah,
but
I'm betting March.
March is a good month to release it, but it could be as late as like June. And they did finally announce the price at the very end. Do you want to unveil the price for us?
Sure. It is $34.99.
Yeah, $3,500.
That's insane.
What are you doing? So MetaQuest 3 comes out this year in fall.
Yep.
It's going to be $500 at the base price.
It's going to have high quality
pass-through,
color pass-through, same as the Apple one.
Yep.
It's virtually going to be able to do everything that the Apple one does.
The only thing I know that it doesn't do, and I'm going to put this picture up for people to see, but it's one of the things that the Vision Pro does is it will allow you to, as you're using it, like if you're in a room with somebody, obviously you can see them really well because of the full color pass-through. But it'll show your eyes on a video screen on the outside of the headset so that they could be seeing your eyes. Look, it's pretty stupid. It looks like big heavy goggles. You can see it. And I'm going to show it on here too. It's going to have 2-hour use on battery, which is the same as most of these headsets.
2-hour use on battery, but with an external battery pack that you have to wear on your hip.
I actually didn't see that part of the presentation. I'm not sure. I know that
maybe I'm wrong. Then I'd heard.
I know that they everyone had guessed it was going to do that, but I didn't see that as part of the presentation. That may be the case. It may not be the case. We don't have to dwell on it. But $3,500 is the part I really wanted to talk about. Like, wow. Like,
no. So I had seen they kept dropping their projections. They said, I think the first year sales were expected to be 900,000 initially, then 500,000, 300,000. Now their prediction is less than 100,000 units sold in their first year.
Yeah, you can obviously
for Apple, that's nothing.
You can obviously drop it as much as you need to.
They sell hundreds of millions of phones a year.
The other thing that I thought was kind of mind blowing on price from that thing, because again, I watched a lot of it. They released a new Mac Pro today. Which, look, the Mac Pro is an amazing machine, and I would love to have one to process all our videos. It'd be great. Do you know what they're charging for it?
12 grand probably.
No, $7. $69.99.
Is it? What is the comparable competitor price?
Well,
is it that amazing of a computer?
It's pretty amazing. It's 24-core CPU.
Okay.
It's got up to a 76-core GPU.
So is that $7 grand the starting price?
Yes.
Damn.
800 gigabytes per second memory bandwidth, which is actually pretty great. Up to 192 gigabytes memory inside it, like 22 streams of 8K ProRes video playback.
So fully decked out, that might be a $12,000.
Support for up to 8 displays. Who knows what it would be fully decked out? I think 12 would easily get to 12.
That's the kind of computer though that's only used by someone with business.
I'm telling you, once we get monetized and I get enough money, I'm gonna use a Mac Pro.
$10,000 one?
Look, go ahead and subscribe, guys. We need you. I can't buy this stuff if you don't subscribe. In big numbers. All right, we can move on from that. Enough Apple news. But Apple News actually does a lot of it gets a lot of clicks.
Yeah.
It gets clicks. I like clicks, guys. All right, an Australian mother in prison 20 years was freed from prison.
Was she freed?
Yeah, she was freed. She was pardoned and freed because of doubt that she killed her 4 children.
So yeah, the unconditional pardon does not quash Miss Folbig's convictions, they said.
Yeah.
That's a decision for the Court of Criminal Appeal.
Yeah.
But she is freed, I guess?
Yeah. So Australia works a little bit different than we do.
Okay.
So, at any rate, if she killed her 4 children, I think that everyone watching, I know you'll agree, like, I don't care that she ever sees sunlight again. I honestly...
Nope.
I'm not a huge fan of the death penalty, but I am definitely fine with just leaving someone in prison forever.
I kind of prefer it. I'd rather them be in a small cell for the rest of their life.
Oh, I mean, I like the fact that you get to sit there and think about your 4 kids that don't exist anymore. Yeah.
Yep.
I do like that. And honestly, death could be a pretty easy way out. Why do you think all these mass shooters shoot themselves after they're done, right?
Or just like Epstein. He got caught. Oh, I'll kill myself because I don't want to rot in jail.
Absolutely. Well, and he's falling from such a height, he doesn't want to see how low the bottom goes, right? You go from being him, a billionaire, to now you're a world-renowned pedophile of hundreds of women. You know, I think it stops at hundreds.
You talked about hitting bottom. I think someone was going to be hitting his bottom in prison.
They were. That's a good line.
He knew what was coming.
It's a good line.
Thanks. I thought so too.
We may isolate that and release it as a short. All right. So the pardon was seen as the quickest way of getting her out of prison, which, you know, they decided they just really needed this woman out of prison.
Apparently.
If she wasn't 55, I would believe that she was romantically involved with some politician.
So she's appealed a couple times before and always been denied on appeal. But with new evidence that they've discovered by mapping the human genome, they can look and see what genes people have might cause issues. And they discovered in her genes that she is a carrier of something that causes sudden onset infant death. So maybe, but the people testifying also said that it would be extraordinarily unlikely to affect all 4 children.
Right.
So
yeah.
I was pretty shocked to see that they went ahead and said, "Oh well, it's possible, however highly unlikely." So
this sounds mysterious.
Yeah.
Oh, it doesn't just stop; they keep going.
It's getting loud too.
I don't think there's anything we can do about it.
Sorry, everybody.
I didn't know it was this long. Oh, there it goes.
I feel like you knew.
What I did know was hitting it a second time would not shorten it.
Okay.
I did know that. That wasn't a good idea. What about this one, though?
You see, this world, there's two kinds of people, my friend. Those with loaded guns, and those who dig.
Those with loaded guns and those who dig.
So basically us we're the two kinds of people.
I don't know. I've got a gun, though, so I don't know that that's fair. I'm pretty sure it's loaded, but it's in a safe.
Truth, essential.
God, he's stupid. All right. So Lauren Boebert, speaking of stupid, she's real dumb. She had a really big problem with the whole debt ceiling deal that the Republicans and the Democrats came up with. Truth is, both sides had problems with it.
Yep.
Especially if, the farther on that side you get, like the more extreme you get, the extremes hated it. So she kept saying that she would absolutely vote against it. And then she didn't show up. So she's come out and said, you should call it a protest because there's absolutely no way to ever justify adding another 4 to 6 trillion in debt. Meanwhile, she did vote for Trump's tax cuts, which added 10 trillion in debt. However, this is more DC self-created garbage that I will always fight against. It should be said that there's video of her frantically scrambling up the steps, trying to get there in time to vote. So this is just saving face. She didn't make it. She couldn't stand by her principled stance, which
She was late and got locked out. So
yeah, she was late. She definitely planned to be there and vote against it. Her vote wouldn't have mattered. They had enough votes, but it's just the principle of, you were late, and now you're pretending like there was some other motive behind it. And then you should just assume if you work in Washington, you're probably on camera.
Yeah.
I work in Fort Worth, and I assume I'm on camera.
I will say she is still a representative, and I don't think they should lock out a representative for a time deal. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean,
I think regardless.
so this is clearly bipartisan because the Republicans own the House right now.
I don't disagree, and Republicans are all about decorum these days, so they're going to. They're going to have to.
I heard MTG say something about decorum when that woman's never understood what decorum was.
I don't disagree. I'm saying they're acting like they care about decorum when it's the other side.
Right, yeah. If it's a Democrat, then it's all about decorum, and if it's you, then you can be as despicable as you want to be. Yeah, it's just ridiculous. All right, so we're kind of done with our stories for the day, but I wanted to tell a story from my own past.
Okay.
So
Navy story or
a Navy story, a sea story. We're gonna start off with Hose 9, just because it's one of my favorite stories to tell. And I released a video of this on my comedy channel because I run 3 different channels, folks. If you don't know that, there's my comedy channel. It's Chris Smith Comedy 1. There's this channel, 2 Newks, spelled N-E-W-K-S. And then there's also News Breakdown -1, where I do news on my own. So that one doesn't get, a conservative and a liberal voice.
Right.
I just get to say how I feel about things. And anyway, on my comedy channel, I released this, but I got to thinking, people don't really get the full. I released it as a short, and it kind of misses some context. So a really good friend of mine on my second boat, I was a chief, so I was standing in watch supervisor, and he would stand, usually throttle but this day he was auxiliary electrician aft, which is kind of the youngest electrician on the boat. And he and I used to make these stupid little wagers. And I would always wager almost nothing, like maybe one of the Red Bulls that I kept in my rack, or a Coke, or because see, like you can't get sodas underway on a submarine, right? They're traded like cigarettes are in prison.
Yep.
But I would always make his some real significant thing that he would have to do, like a challenge, okay? And he would usually do them. Like he went one time right into the chief's quarters without knocking, which is first of all crazy,
yep,
especially on a submarine. He walked right into the chief's head, which is already nuts. Walks right into the stall, sits down, and poops. Gets up, leaves, says, "Thanks, guys," and walks out the door. And that was a challenge that I gave him. Now, of course...
That's a decent one.
Of course, as soon as he walks out of the door, I tell the other chiefs, and they're like, "I did that. I made him do it." So it's not like I'm letting him get in trouble, but it is funny. And so this one, Hose 9, was pretty significant. We do code reds. So basically they're fire drills, but they're kind of half fire drills. You don't actually show up with fire hoses and pressurize them and all that stuff. But the initial team, on some boats they call them the flying squad, some boats they call them the rapid response team, whatever they call them, they'll show up with like fire extinguishers and try to extinguish the fire,
right,
initially. And the auxiliary electrician aft is the one who's supposed to be there with the fire extinguisher first. He's the first man on the scene, there with the fire extinguisher, ready to try to put out the fire. Well, I knew a code red was coming because, again, I was a chief. And I told him, I said, for this code, because he lost our little, whatever our wager was.
Right.
And I told him, you got to go, I gave him his instructions. So when the code red gets called away, he gets there first with his fire extinguisher. He was really fast. He was good at it. But he had already prepared for the little stunt he had to pull. So underneath his coveralls was nothing. He was just on a submarine. I'll put a picture here. But we would wear just dark blue coveralls, and then you would usually wear a white shirt and boxers or something underneath. But the white shirt and boxers were missing from his. He shows up. He's the first one on the scene. Okay, he's wearing his coveralls, which are these dark blue coveralls. I'll show you a picture. And underneath, you're supposed to wear a white T-shirt and boxers or whatever. He wasn't wearing those. He was just naked underneath. And so he shows up, sets down the fire extinguisher, and now I'll break and tell you, there's 8 fire hoses naturally on the boat. And this is an important part of the story, right?
Right.
So normally you would announce like hose 3, fight the fire with hose 4, searching for spread, which means they'll go one level above and look for if the fire makes it to the next area.
Spreading, yeah.
Exactly. So we have 8 fire hoses, and so that's why we call this hose 9. So he shows up, he sets his fire extinguisher down, not allowed to do that. He drops his coveralls, puts his hands on his hips, and he says, hose 9 is on the scene with all of its glory, right? And EDMC tried to kick him in the ass, but missed. And
no comments about how small the hose was?
No comments about it. But it took some big old balls to do it. So in the chief's quarters, the EDMC, the bull Nuke ends up in there, and he's just fuming still. He's like, I cannot believe this guy would do this to me. What is his problem? I'm laughing in the corner, and he looks at me and goes, what's so funny? As a bull, I did it. I told him to go down there and do that, and I just can't get over it. And, then he got a pretty big laugh out of it, but he was still shocked that I was able to get him to do it. And honestly, I was too.
That's the key, though, is keeping people from getting in trouble. Then it's always fun and games.
Yeah. As long as they don't get in trouble, you go a little stir crazy on a submarine, and we needed to kill some time. So I got a big old laugh out of this. And at some point, I'll tell the story of the Dark Knight Rises on here. So that one's pretty good too.
And these are giving you laughs for years too, not just.
Oh yeah, I'm still laughing about it, man. Yeah. I wish he was here right now to tell the story with us, or maybe even pull a hose 9 on us. All right, I think that's our show for the week.
I'm good with it.
Yeah,
I think today was a good day.
Yeah, thanks for watching.